right, everybody, we are back with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Today, I am joined with both co-founders, Mitch and Manoj. How you guys doing?
Good, Danny. Doing well. Happy Friday Eve.
Happy Friday Eve. It's a great way to put it. I love when you say that because it makes me feel like the week is very much nearing the end, almost the
Wrapping
weekend.
up.
Awesome. So we want to speak about something that many have asked about and very few have experimented with, which is an outsourced SDR team, the pros and the cons, what we've seen, what we've experienced, and what works. But before we jump into that, the news of the day. Hot topic right now. It looks like there's another bidder for TikTok in the US. Looks like Walmart has thrown their hat into the ring and maybe teaming up with Microsoft on a TikTok bid. Guys, I've heard so many people trying to buy TikTok. Oracle, Microsoft, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. Who's going to buy them, and does it matter?
I think it matters. My money's on Microsoft. I think they have the cash to do it, the incentive to do it. They haven't really tapped into social that much outside of LinkedIn. Huge group of people. I really don't know if Facebook can get through antitrust to purchase TikTok, and you need a rival. So money's on Microsoft. So let's see how that pans out. I also have some stock in Microsoft. So for very selfish reasons.
What's Walmart's angle here? How does that fit into their model?
Something like this. Attention, Walmart shoppers. We're going to need you to download the TikTok app immediately. I have no idea.
Product placement, maybe. I really don't know.
Yeah,
I should do a bit of digging into it. I'm curious now. I mean, off the top of my head, new base of users, shoppers that they have access to, young people, maybe they can embed themselves into the profiles, because I'm already seeing people have coupon codes and such, and you go into each of their profile pages to get the download link for you to then go shop. I wonder if it's just going to be, product placement for them. We'll see. Interesting angle, though.
Certainly interesting. I'm excited to watch this play out. Fun fact about me, I have never been in an actual Walmart store, and I have never used TikTok.
Dang. I think you're missing out on both fronts, man, honestly.
I have been to the first Walmart headquarters, which is now a museum in Bentonville. So if that counts, then I'm disqualified. But I have never actually been inside of a store.
That's crazy, Danny. Fun fact about me, I actually was a former Walmart employee. I worked in electronics. Yeah.
Nice. I'm from
not a
Minnesota.
creator on TikTok, but I definitely am on it.
I am a Target enthusiast, being from Minnesota, so I can't cross the line and jump into a Walmart.
Two completely different stores, Danny. That shows me that you've never been inside a Walmart.
Not in my heart. Well, we're digressing a little bit. Let's jump into the main topic today. It's outsourced SDR teams. I've experimented with several. I know you both have too. Mitch, I know that you've had some success experimenting with outsourced SDR teams. What has your experience been with them?
Yeah, definitely. I'll talk through some of the advantages here of working with an outsourced team. So let's define this a little bit more, actually, maybe for the sake of this conversation. We'll say if you're a startup, a young company that's trying to find its footing, you don't have a fully built out sales team. So maybe you're missing, leadership, you're missing maybe, SDRs, you're trying to get product market fit. So with that in mind, I think there are definitely some advantages going the outsourced route. Number one is with, just signing a contract, you can immediately have a full-fledged team at your disposal. So you can quickly hit the ground running without having to hire, without having to train, without having to manage I think that's a big advantage. There's no overhead that goes into it. There's no ramp time. Instead of waiting 6 months to see some results from starting the team from scratch, you have a whole team at your disposal. I think that's huge. The other major advantage is, I think, if you are a technical founder or technical co-founder who don't have much sales experience, this can be an easy way for you to start getting leads into the door without having to spin your wheels, figuring out the sales process, figuring out messaging best practices, figuring out channel best practices, buying a bunch of tools that you don't know how to use. Again, it's just that accelerated time to delivery on seeing leads coming through the door. I think that's a huge advantage. And then I think if you partner with the right type of folks, the right outsourced team, you actually can get back some of the messaging, cadence, structures, ICP, buyer persona types that they're leveraging and using. So when you do start to build out your team, and maybe you do it in parallel, you're hitting the ground running, right? You're still not doing it from scratch. They've gotten you to some point, to some extent, further along than you would have alone. And now you're starting from a couple stories up instead of the ground floor. So I think, it really comes down to that accelerated delivery on seeing leads coming into the door quicker than you starting from scratch.
Yeah, That's great. And Manoj, what's your take on it?
And I think I'm somewhere in the middle when it comes to it. And on the one hand, there are certain advantages in that if you're not a seasoned founder or if you have no experience selling, it's a lot easier for you to say, let me just trust this process with someone else that has done it in the past. I have very low to no overhead, can hit the ground running. I don't have to buy a tech stack. I don't have to worry about reporting. Everything just comes to me. So on paper, it sounds great. But then on the flip side, if it were so great, why would anyone have an in-house sales team? And why would we not see outsourced sales shops in abundance? There's a few of them. There is no very notable outsourced sales development or business development shop. I think they kind of gain prominence a bit and then they fizzle out. And it's very difficult for a team of people to say, I can sell anything. It doesn't matter. I'm just good at selling. And so whatever it is that you have to offer for a product or service, without me having good understanding of the industry, my prospects' pain points, I can figure it out and I can get up and running and selling. That's the disconnect for me. And I know that, Danny, you have some strong feelings about outsourced SDR shops. And, I'm pretty sure you're definitely going to get some hate in the LinkedIn comments for your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I've experimented with several different partners. I will not name names, and I've really only had success with one partner. And I will name their name because they're pretty great. They have a good customer experience. It's Science, Cience. So as a category, excluding Science, I am pretty against outsource SDR teams for a few reasons. The first is it's very hard to control and tweak the messaging that you are going out with when somebody else is in control of that messaging. You do get final say, but you don't get to press go as if you were an SDR team, as if you had the SDR team in-house. The other thing is, I'm not sure the outsourced SDR team will fundamentally understand your company goals. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a sales qualified lead goal that's in place for your team each month. The outsourced SDR team doesn't necessarily care about that goal. They care about their own goals. They care about driving revenue to their own business, and they care about hitting metrics and KPIs that are established for them. The last thing is the incentive structure is not aligned with your company. So the incentive for an outsourced SDR team is to, again, drive revenue for their company. So if they find and they are working with a partner that provides an easier path to generating meetings, potentially a more lucrative path to generating meetings, sometimes those are matched up with outsourced SDR teams, then they will go down that road and they'll potentially lower your team and your company down the priority rank. I'm not in favor of that. So I think there's a time and a place where you can use it more as a blunt force initiative. As a category, I've seen it too many times. I've seen it fail too often to think it's a great use of time for a sales team.
Let me ask you this question. If you were in a place as a business where you had nailed your ideal customer profile, you've nailed your messaging, you pretty much have everything set up, you just need to scale and you need a lot of manpower, right? It's all you need are additional bodies. Do you think that might be a use case for an outsourced shop where all you're asking them to do is execute? Or do you think at that point, you should build teams internally to repeat what you built?
It's a good question. I think if you have extremely tight and tested messaging and you don't have enough bodies to get the message out, there could be an opportunity for you to use an outsourced SDR team. But I would see it as a short-term fix, and I would really be restricted around the test that they're running. Make sure they commit to metrics, make sure they commit to actual goals, and also make sure that the cost makes sense. So let's say you're paying out $200, $300 per meeting. If that compares to an SDR that you have in seats and it's potentially cheaper, maybe that's the right move. Otherwise, I would scrap it. So it'd just be really, really strict on the output and the cost that shelling out for something like this.
That makes sense. And then Mitch, I know that you had mentioned some advantages for working with outsourced sales development shops or outsourced BD shops. Do you think that there's a stage in a company's life cycle, I mean, where it doesn't make sense for them to use the services of outsourced SDR or BDR shop? Is it more appropriate for early stage companies that just have a founder or a technical founder and that's that? Or do you feel like this is something that a company, despite its life cycle, can come in and use?
I think more often than not, it's early stage. It's when you have a founder and maybe one AE, but no SDRs. You're trying to relieve some pressure on the AE by getting them some quick meetings. I think that's when you probably see it being used more often than not. To Danny's point, if you are, if you've got one or two SDRs, you're probably better off just scaling that team, right? Building off of the momentum that they're generating and scaling from there. But if you're, for whatever reason, tight on cash or you can't hire right now, it could be used in parallel with an existing team. But I see it more of early stage. Let's hit the ground running as quickly as possible in parallel while we're trying to hire and build out our own team internally.
Got it. That makes sense. Let's see what the future holds. I feel like, especially these days, with things not being the best with the economy, I wonder if this is a good time to run some of these outsourced SDR shops and say, pay as you go, no contracts, or pay completely based on a success fee, very low monthly minimums, and we only get paid if we set up a meeting. I highly doubt that people would kind of put their money where their mouth is. It's just way too risky, and I think it's hard to run a business like that. But I'd be curious to see how the next 12 to 18 months shape up and see if these times would spur a new growth in outsourced activity.
I think we might see more of it. There's a really cool company. Danny mentioned Science, but a company called Televerde that is an outsourced BD shop, but their shtick is they strictly employ incarcerated women, incarcerated females, and they generated, I think last year on their website, they said they generated $8 billion in revenues for their clients, which is insane. They've set up shops in prisons across the US and a couple in Europe as well. And the really cool thing here is that females working, they are making all the calls from, inside the prison walls, but they're getting paid out. They can leave with as much as like $30,000, $40,000 saved up. They leave prison with the skill set ready to go. The coolest fact I heard from their CEO was, I forget what you call it, but basically the rate at which females end up back in prison after leaving prison on average is like 60-70%. For their females that work with them through the program, it's 6%.
Wow.
Which is just incredible, I think. It's a super cool business model. They're crushing it as a company, and they're doing a lot of good for these women.
Figure out a way to help them out or share some of our training programs with folks. I think that's a good way of encouraging a new group of workers into the economy. They probably would not have access to something like this otherwise. So it's an amazing initiative.
Yeah, it seems like a good positive note to wrap it up on. We've spoken through the outsourced SDR team model. Comment below with your thoughts, and we'll start a discussion on what you're seeing out there in the marketplace. So for Mitch, Manoj, and myself, this has been another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.